On the live chat. Why can't I see myself? Alright, there we go. Hey everyone. So this video, I'm gonna go over some things that you should have and have backed up as a guitarist. You don't have to have everything. You'd be absurd and a paranoid freak if you have everything like me. I'm just absolutely paranoid about every situation. And I've decided to spend my money on backups instead of new things. Because I'd rather have my guitar always in playing shape instead of having something go wrong and having it be unplayable and not being able to play guitar until it's fixed. Or if something goes wrong and you want to change something of the guitar and you can't. So, some of these things I have to show you, some of them I can just tell you. Once again, I can't stress enough, you don't have to have everything. Have what pertains to you mostly. Like, I'm prone to losing picks and snapping strings, so I have backups to those. I'll go over them on my list, but here we go. The first thing I have, Gorilla Snot. It's gonna keep the pick and drumsticks in your hands because it's just an adhesive basically to get your thumb and fingers sticky. Make sure it doesn't slip. Number two, string clippers. You know, to get rid of those extra strings at the very top of your guitar that you don't want. Especially when you have locking tuners. A peg winder. So you don't sit there all the time just tuning the pegs by hand. Just, is it tuned yet? Is it tuned yet? We're getting there. Almost, you know what I mean. Number three. Number four. Electrical tape. A lot of times wires will come loose in the back of the guitar, in the cavity. Or sometimes people want tape to put on the strings that they aren't supposed to play and they don't want to ring out while they're recording. Having some tape, especially electrical tape, will be very handy to have in those situations. Alright, number five. A flathead and Phillips head screwdriver. You don't know if you need it for a speaker cab or something like that. Maybe you want to change the guitar straps, the strap knobs to strap locks or something like that. You're going to need a screwdriver for that. Otherwise, if you want, you could get a drill as long as you have a flathead and Phillips head drill bit. And I recommend, if you can't find an Allen wrench that's just a straight part to put in the drill, take an Allen wrench and cut it so that you have an Allen wrench that you could put in the drill instead of having to crank it the whole time. Going into number six, a set of Allen wrenches. You need these for Floyd Roses mostly, locking nuts, intonating, changing strings. A lot of speaker cabs require an Allen wrench if you were to change speakers or something like that. Alright, number seven, sockets and socket wrenches. The sockets are more important. Excuse me, around 5/7 around that size is most important because that's around the size that'll be input jacks and it'll be tuning pegs if they use nuts at the top, nuts and washers to hold them in. Plus speakers again and speaker cabs, it'll be extremely useful. Alright, number eight, Soldering iron with solder. I only say with solder because there have been several times I've started my soldering iron, I picked it up, went to go solder some, and I realized I had no solder. So, a soldering iron will allow you to fix any wires that pop loose in the back. Like, it also, besides the guitar cavity, a lot of companies and a lot of people like to solder their speakers into their cabs so that they don't just pop loose from the vibration of the speakers moving so much. This is an important one. Extra picks. I can't stress enough, if you have only one pick, you're going to have to use a piece of cardboard or a coin or something that's very horrible to use with the guitar string. So I would get like 5 picks to start with. I just dropped one. Got it. So, along with that, I mentioned it earlier, a backup sets of strings. Like, whether you have 1 pack in case something happens, or if you're like me and you have 5 packs to last hopefully the year. If not, just get more. But I have about 4 or 5 different kinds of strings for different tunings and different guitars. But I have like 5 of each of them because I just want to be backed up just in case a string snapped, or I just want to restring a guitar, which is coming into my next point. Collect single strings to replace. Because sometimes when you snap a string, especially in a moment that you're recording and you have to get something done, or you're playing live, or anything like that where it's of the moment, you want to have just a 1 string so you aren't replacing them all. So having backups, like, it may not be the perfect size all the time, but if you have a string gauge of each size, so string 1 through 6 or 1 through 7, 1 through 8, as long as you have a string size that's manageable until you can replace it with the string size that is more comfortable to you, I would do that. Because like me, I have multiple guitars that use different string gauges. So I like to have one as a backup single string. I like to have a string size that will work on all of them temporarily until I can get a full replacement. Spare tuning pegs. You don't have to get a lot, but there have been a lot of times I go to tune my guitar and they just strip and they won't turn anymore. Or if you have a locking tuner, it will, the peg will get jammed in it sometimes, or the bottom will fall. Some of them, the locking nut at the bottom falls out, and if it falls out, it can bounce somewhere where you can't find it. So it's just good to have backup tuners if you need them. Some wire for the electronics in the back of the guitar. You don't necessarily need this one. This is one of the least needed. But if you're a paranoid freak like me that likes to make sure that everything's going to work all the time, sometimes the wire they give you just doesn't cut it. So having some extra wire to neaten up the crow's nest that they give you at the factory is a good way to invest your money if you are into soldering in wire and stuff like that. If not, just take it to a professional. A fret wrap. I recommend this for 7 and 8 string players especially, or baritone players, because the bigger the headstock, I should say, also big headstocks, like the more space you have on the headstock where the string can stretch out, And the longer the string length is on the headstock, the more likely it is to ring out and leave some ringing while you're playing. You go na na na, and that'll just mute all the string noise at the top. Alright, I recommend one plugin and one amplifier. That way, so you have a means to play guitar, whether your amp doesn't work suddenly or your computer's on the fritz and it doesn't want to work right now. Like, either way, you can play your music. So, even if the plugin's free, you could get the Ignite Emissary. You could get the free version of ML Labs Amped Roots or something like that. Like, you don't have to spend any money on a plugin. It's just a good idea to have one just in case something happens. And then, as for the amps, it doesn't matter what kind. It could be a full-fledged amp, it could be a mini head, it could be a modeling platform. As long as you have an external source of sound that isn't your computer or plugin, and the plugin, you'll be fine. Oh, for the people that love unboxing videos and get a lot of speakers, and it just helps them in general. Scissors and razor blades. They'll be more handy than you will ever think of. Extra USB ports. I have a rack mount specifically of 16 USB ports that I could connect to my computer. That way, so I have a USB port for every situation. I don't have to get a dock that only has a certain amount, because I know my phone has one, the microphone has one, speakers has one, the laptop has one, like, everything has one. So it's just an idea to get extra USB ports, even if it's a 4 or 5 little cable method to plug into your laptop. That's fine. I just go overboard with that stuff. Everyone says get get computer speakers. All I'm gonna say is, they don't have to be the best computer speakers in the world. The speakers I have are like $100, $120. Just don't get horrible ones. Don't get the bottom grade ones. The ones that are like $50, $60. Stay away from those. I'd spend at least $100 on your guitar speakers. Just so you could get a clear representation of what the sound is coming out of your computer. If you use plugins. Bass fret. Just to keep your fretboard slick and smooth, well moisturized. It'll look healthy, and by that I mean it'll have a nice color to it. It'll absorb all the liquid and it'll keep it in good shape, because if you let it dry out, it has the potential to crack or worse. Guitar cleaner and polish. That's obvious reasons. Just to keep your guitar clean and to polish it out if you do the string changes and you do it then. Or whenever you do it. It's just a good idea to have that. For maintenance, I would get a neck stand. It's just a little stand that you put the guitar down and the neck holds it. That way, so the neck's not floating in the air with the headstock angled down. Just every time you touch the guitar, it kind of secures it. It protects the neck from getting damaged, the headstock from getting damaged. you could get them really cheap. Microfiber rags to wipe down the guitar. Guitars collect a lot of dust and dirt. This is mostly for the dust though. For a quick wipe off, I would get a microfiber towel. Otherwise, you're going to let it gather all the dust and dirt, and then you're going to have to wait till the next time you have to use a guitar cleaner. Otherwise, you'll use a lot of guitar cleaner really quickly. So, if you have one rag, you could save some guitar cleaner. Backup cables. Backup cables, backup cables, backup cables. Both instrument cables and speaker cables. From the amp to the speaker, make sure you have a backup cable. I usually have one short, like a 5-footer, and then a 10-footer, 10 or 15-footer, as a backup, just in case one of them decides to go, because that's one of my things. Like, the cables always die on me. And I always go, what the crap? Why is the speaker cables always dying on me? I don't even touch them. But it's just my curse. So, I always keep a set of backup cables. Instrument cables, especially if you put the guitar down with the instrument cable still plugged in, it could kink the wire and it could start to wear out and snap eventually. Not like snap off, but inside the wire. It could get pulled out from the part that connects in the guitar. Uncle Ben's nut sauce. This is just to keep the strings lubricated at the section of the nut so that it doesn't catch and cause a lot of tuning instabilities. It's supposed to promote string tuning stability. How many times am I going to say stability? It'll keep the string tunings more stable. Not the same word, but very similar. If you use guitar straps, have one extra guitar strap, because if you're playing guitar and then it snaps, and if you're playing live or something and you can't sit down, I've heard of stories where they've had people come out of a crowd or come out of the back to hold up the guitar while they play. Like, I just can't imagine doing that, so I always have a backup guitar strap. Alright, a bowl, a cup, or a container to keep small guitar parts in, like screws or pots or bolts or locking nuts or headless guitar bolts. Like, as long as you have a little cup, they'll never leave one little spot. They won't be scattered everywhere. You could just pick them out easy. And yeah, it's just a smart idea to use a bowl or a cup or a container. I have a whole drawer outside of parts, like a sliding drawer set. And I have tuning pegs, locking tuning pegs. I have headless guitar bolts. I have extra nuts, screws, you name it. I went over drill bits already. Alright, so do you know this, I don't know what it's called, a surge protector or power outlets, the thing you plug into the wall and then you have like 10 outlets like on the floor there? I would get one battery powered one, because if you have content on your computer that you don't want to immediately die if the power goes out, you'll have a few minutes to save it all before you can shut your computer down. Or I have my light plugged in, so when my power goes out, the light stays on in my basement where my bedroom is. Otherwise it gets darker than heck in here. I'm doing better at not swearing. I know this from experience. Get a hat, or a headband if you don't have head ties, because it'll keep your hair back. Hats are pretty stylish unless you have like a fedora on at a metal concert. I don't know, fedoras could be pretty metal, prove me wrong. But anyways, even a headband, just keeping the hair out of your face and being able to see your fretboard and guitar strings and being able to do everything without your hair getting in your face, itchy nose while you're playing. Like, if you have long hair, think about getting hair ties, a hat, or a headband, some way to maintain your hair. You don't really need it for the guitar itself, but like rack mounts or speaker cabinets, I would get a wrench specifically for stripped screws, because it happened on one of my rack mounts. I have a drawer rack mount that I put all my pedals in right now, and I stripped the bolt with my drill and it wouldn't turn at all and it was stuck, so I had to sit there, clamp it with a bolt and like turn it slowly. It was the only way I could get it out. It was either that or find a drill bit that's able to cut through metal and drill the screw out. Don't put your guitars against the wall for a long period of time, or on the floor, or tuck them between the wall and the cabinets or whatnot. Get a guitar stand, or get a guitar rack. Get something to manage your guitars. Get a guitar hanger. That'll work too. As long as they are safe and out of the way, and they are not going to get damaged at all, because if you just lean them against a wall or a desk or something, they could fall over and hit on the ground. The momentum could snap a neck or a headstock. It could put the guitar completely out of tune. It could snap strings. It could do a lot more than that too, but let's move on. Oh, let me get it. I don't know what this is called. It's like an air duster or a dust spray can. Just to spray air and get dust that's getting between the strings and the saddles and everything, so you aren't getting grime all up in there and getting all the spots you can't get with a rag. It's a good idea to have one can of that at least for once in a while, just to spray those little nooks and crannies down. Headphones. I can't stress this one enough, because there have been several nights where I've been playing guitar and I've woken everybody up in the house because I play too loud. But the amp sounds best loud. So, what's the best way we could manage this? Get a pair of headphones. And whether you have to play into a Captor X, into an interface, if your amp, like a mini head that recently came out, should have a port for a headphone section. There's new speakers by wow, I can't think of them. But Glenn Fricker uses them. He just did a video on them. They're like two balls that sit there and you put them at arm's length away from you. But there's this box that goes in back and you could flip it up. But that has a headphone jack right in there. So it'll maintain all sound, obviously. And you won't wake anybody up. You won't disturb anyone. It's more considerate. You don't have to get headphones, but for everyone else's sake, just be nice and get a pair. You don't have to use them all the time. If you like to build your own cabs like I do, or if you want to make sure that your cabs stay in working condition, the speaker cables they use in the cabs to wire up the speakers, I would get extra cables or extra wires of those, along with the head clamps that they use to put on the speakers. Because sometimes, like the shoddy guitars, sometimes they come with bad wire. Really cheap ones come with a little bit less graded wire, but either way, if a wire like inside snaps, or if a head comes off, or if you need to lengthen something to reach, because I had an issue recently where the cab I built had a really short cable that attached first at the bottom, and I had to keep the back of the cab like at an angle so I could reach inside, but the bottom was still closed. So it was a pain to hold and do at the same time. So if I had longer wire, because I ran out. I know that's confusing. I had some. I need to get more. But if I had wire, I would have replaced that immediately. A metronome. Everyone should learn to play on time. Every time they play, they should always have a metronome going. Whether they're recording, just playing to play, practicing. Like, a metronome is a really good idea for new guitarists especially. And I heard someone saying they're going to make a challenge where they put a metronome in each room of the house, and each metronome is at a different tempo. And as they go into the different room, they have to change the speed that they're playing at to match the metronome. For headless guitars, get spare bolts. I don't know where mine are right now, but I have a bag of spare bolts specifically for headless guitars that hold the strings in at the top, because those strip out too. And if you drop them, they get lost really, really easily. So I have a backup bag of those, especially because I couldn't get this problem, but one of the bolts stripped inside of my headless guitar, and I couldn't turn it at all, and if I turned it, it wouldn't go anywhere. So I took it to a professional. But that's the one issue that extra bolts won't solve. Even then, you could tell them, hey, can you get this out? Or her. You could tell them, hey, can you get this out? Here's an extra one to replace it. That would be nicer to them. The tuning pegs are different on headless guitars too. So I would get an extra set of those. Especially because if you untune them enough, they'll just pop out. They're held in by one screw, the locking mechanism that's inside, and then the part you turn. So I have a couple extra ones. I only have like 3, but you don't need a lot. I have 2 headless guitars, so I just want to have 1 or 2 for each of them in case one of them falls out and I can't find it. Because being all black, they match my floor pretty conveniently, because they're like camouflaged in there. And my final hint of advice of things to get, I'm not going to tell you to get anything, but learn basic guitar maintenance. You don't have to do a full setup, but learn how to change a string, learn how to put a solder inside the guitar cavity, learn to use the Allen wrenches for locking nuts and tuning changing strings and intonating the Floyd Rose guitars. Like, basic maintenance should be something everybody learns. Otherwise, their guitar is gonna just fall apart over time. or it will implode. It won't fall apart. It'll stick together, and you won't be able to get anything off to replace it. So all I can say is learn basic guitar maintenance if you want to be a more serious guitarist. You don't have to be great at anything. You don't have to be perfect at everything. But if you know how to do it, and you could do it to a point where you could get it back working for that moment and take it to a professional later, that's perfectly fine. But it would really help you out if you knew how to solder a pickup or input jack, or if you knew how to change a guitar string really quickly, if you knew how to change a guitar string on a Floyd Rose really quickly. Like, I do it the Eddie Van Halen way, where I put the topper string in the Floyd, and then I put the ball end at the top, at the tuning peg. I'll use the locking tuner, I lock it, and I snap the string and just tune from there. Yeah, let me just make sure I didn't forget anything. I think that's a song from Spaceballs. Where did I hear that from? It sounds so familiar. Yeah, like, obviously I'm probably forgetting some things. Or there's probably some things that could be added to the list I'm not thinking of or thought of. But for a list that I thought of in 10 minutes, I think this is a pretty good list of what you should get backups of or get replacements of in case something happens. Or what you should just get in general for guitar maintenance or guitar gear maintenance. Because, like I said, some of those things aren't for guitar specifically, but it could be used for the equipment that you use with the guitar. So, if you have any other ideas of what would be a good idea to have on this list, leave a comment down below. If I get enough comments of things you should have as a guitar player, I'll make another video about it. I'll add on, but for now, I think this list is complete. So, everybody, I'm gonna get going and get a drink because my throat's really dry right now. Excuse me. So, everybody, stay happy, stay healthy, keep making marvelous metal. Peace out. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.